Hello and welcome to our 7-8 minutes of weekly Torah talk. Our guest today is Rabbi Lester Bronstein from the Beit Am Shalom Synagogue in White Plains, New York. Hello, Rabbi. Thank you for being with us.
Shalom Aleichem. How are you?
Our Parsha is Shoftim. Well, we'll see how am I soon. In this Parsha, Moses instructs the people to appoint judges and law enforcement officers in every city. Justice must be administered without favoritism. Crimes must be meticulously investigated and evidence examined. 2 credible witnesses are a minimum requirement for conviction. Shoftim includes a prohibition against idolatry and sorcery, laws governing the appointment of a king, guidelines for the creation of cities of refuge for the inadvertent murderer. Many rules of war are presented. The exemption from battle for those who just built a home, planted a vineyard, married, or are afraid. The requirement to offer terms of peace before attacking a city. The prohibition against wanton destruction of something of value, like a fruit tree, when laying a siege. The Parsha concludes with the law of the Egla Arufa, the special procedure to be followed when a person is killed by an unknown murderer, which underscores the responsibility of the whole community and its leaders to prevent act of murder. The first pasuk of the parsha says, "Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha bechol sharecha asher Adonai Elohecha noten lecha lishvatecha v'shaftu et ha'am mishpat tzedek." You shall set up judges and law enforcement officials for yourself in all your cities that the Lord your God is giving you for your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment. So Rabbi, in the last 2 weeks we began our discussions of the Parshas Eikev and Re'eh by talking about the first word of the Parsha, Eikev, Re'eh. In this Parsha, maybe 2 words would be the right choice. Shoftim v'shotrim, judges and police officers. What do they tell us?
Well, let's think about it in terms of the pshat, the way the Torah is presenting the story. That Moses and the Israelites have been governing themselves in this independent colony that's wandering through the wilderness, and they're really governed by Moses and by the cloud. It's got its own unique kind of social fabric. But he's preparing them now to grow up, to be adults, to go into the real world, to go into a world where they're going to have to build civil societies, and they're going to have to take care of themselves. They're going to have to govern themselves in just ways, and it can't all be done by Moses and by a cloud and by the mystery of God's presence. They're going to have to really bring that all of what they learned at Sinai, they learned in the wilderness, they're going to have to bring it home. So he's saying to them, on the one hand, Shoftim, it means you're going to have to set up civil courts. You're going to have to do something that we've never had before. Civil courts that listen to witnesses, that measure the testimony of one witness against another, to try to find the truth, to give access to justice for each and every citizen, whether it's the highest or the lowest, rich or poor. Al takir panim, we don't recognize one person over another because he's wealthy or powerful as opposed to another, or have access mercy on someone because they're not, because we feel sorry for them, because then it won't give justice to the powerful person. But then it says shotrim. It says that's going to be the hardest part of growing up, because now you're going to have to enforce the laws. You're going to have to make sure that people comply, and in doing that, you're going to have citizens enforcing laws against other citizens. They're going to have to arrest one another. They're going to have to tell one another, "I'm sorry, don't cross beyond this boundary or that boundary," so that sense of marvelous divine hierarchy with God, and then Moshe, and then Aaron, and then the cloud, and then finally all of the Zkenim, the elders, and all of that now disappears. And now Moses is saying this is going to start to look like the normal life of everyone else, except that you can't make it like everybody else's normal life, because in the normality of other kingdoms, of other nations, they don't really have a system of justice. They have despotism. He says we're going to actually have to take that divine spark that was given to us and translate it into an entirely new way of civil society, of civil
It's
governance.
a way for us. It's a way for us to have godly justice by human action.
Yes, godly justice by human action. So that if somebody understands that connection, matov, that's profound. But if they don't understand it, they still have it. In other words, the average person still benefits from a society that's now going to actually have persons hearing cases, adjudicating based on law, accumulating legal precedent, and then also appointing fellow citizens to go and enforce that law and to make sure that it happens in an appropriate way. So it sets, if there are numerous details in this parsha that we wouldn't like if we looked at it very carefully, we modern Jews. On the other hand, looked at, like if you do a flyover and just look at this parsha quickly, this is the parsha that people love the most. This is the parsha that sets the tone for the vision of Jewish life that the rabbis create. In other words, they want us to be a religion that perpetuates a notion of civil justice at the lowest levels of our mundane society, that somehow reflects the divine, and that we're going to do it with witnesses, and preferably 2 and more witnesses all the time, that we're going to have fairness, we're going to have these arei miklat, these cities of refuge where people who would otherwise be unfairly chased and hurt by vigilantes or by people seeking revenge are going to be protected. We're going to have a society where the society in general protects the individual's rights. And that's that's the great Jewish idea going forward. That may not be exactly what the Torah meant, but that's the way the Jewish tradition read this parsha. That's why this parsha, at least for me, is really the crux of the whole matter. I mean, if you said I can keep one parsha and the rest I can't keep anymore, I'd probably keep Shoftim, because it allows us to create the vision of Jewish life and this of universal human existence
I thought every person would choose to keep only his bar mitzvah parsha.
Yes, only his bar mitzvah. Well, mine was Lech Lecha. I don't know if I like Lech Lecha is good too. You want to talk about that? Call me up in a few weeks. That's coming. But so, this is the one that matters.
Yeah, and if we are talking about justice, I have to mention the one pasuk that makes it all come to life. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. It's almost a saying, mysterious in some way. Why do we repeat the word tzedek, justice, twice? What do we mean by tirdof? We have to chase justice, not just to seek it, or it's like an active chase after something.
Right. So beautiful. It is mysterious. And look, when the Torah says the word twice, tzedek, tzedek, what I think it means in its original context, and its pshat, it's homiletical, it's sermonic. They do it for effect. It's poetry. It's enthusiastic. In other words, it's saying, pursue justice enthusiastically, emphatically. Do it with all your heart. On the other hand, the rabbis have created an entire hermeneutical system where there's no such thing as an extra word. There's no such thing as doing something just for the aesthetic.
You have to read some meaning into it.
Right. So there are lots of different homiletical takes on it. Tzedek. One tzedek is internal and the other is external. One is for the individual and one is for society. One is for the citizens and one is for the stranger, because we were strangers in Egypt. So there are all these different ways where we see tzedek here, tzedek there. Just as this, so too that. I always go back to this sort of wonderful take on it from my favorite of the Hasidic commentators. He's maybe the last of the classic Hasidic commentators of the late 19th century. This is the Sfas Emes from Poland,
right,
in the late 19th century. And he says, tzedek is like emes, or like truth. He says, you start off seeking truth, but look out. A person who's looking for a little bit of truth, that's worse than no truth at all. In other words, once you started down the path of looking for emet, you have to keep going, even facing facts that you don't want to face, even hearing things you don't want to hear in order to get to that place of truth. It says, likewise, tzedek. So tzedek is the crux of the matter, but it's also very dangerous. A little bit of tzedek and a society starts to corrupt itself, fall apart, fall in on itself. People start to harm each other, kill each other, turn each other in, go against each other. That's with a little bit of tzedek. He says we have to take tzedek all the way to its logical conclusion. In other words, a little justice, not good. We have to give ourselves and our world the complete treatment, all of justice. Of course, then he doesn't tell you exactly how to do that, but he lives in Warsaw in the 19th century, or outside of Warsaw, and he doesn't yet. Well, but he's beginning to see Jews returning to the land of Israel, to the Yishuv, and he's one of those who, in some of his commentary, predicts that one of these days, Jews in the land of Israel are going to start to have to do what Moses predicted our people would do, which is to go and grow up and to take charge of civil society and not just be, a mystical, religious people, if you follow what I'm saying. So he too could see the problem, that real tzedek is difficult. It's not just a beautiful, a religious or philosophical concept. Real justice is hard to attain, right. And people get hurt by it. So that's just my thinking on that.
We make it a habit not to discuss any political issues in this corner of Rosner's domain. But
and I think, have no politics whatsoever.
I think we all understand what you're referring to. Rabbi, thank you so much, and Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, thank you so much for this opportunity. And love to Tel Aviv and love to Eretz Israel. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.